Thank you to the National Association for Primary Education for their long-term support of the Education on Fire podcast. To get a free e-copy of their professional journal, Primary First, please go to nape.org.uk/journal. That's nape.org.uk/journal. Hello, my name is Mark Taylor and welcome to the Education on Fire podcast. The place for creative and inspiring learning from around the world. Listen to teachers, parents and mentors share how they are supporting children to live their best authentic life and are proving to be a guiding light to us all. Hello, welcome, thank you for joining me. I'm really delighted that you've chosen to be here, and this solo episode today is going to be unedited and unfiltered. It's me talking about where we are in education, where we can go forward, and it's inspired by a mastermind group that I'm in. And there was a conversation recently between the person who runs this mastermind and a friend of his who's a very successful entrepreneur. And I know they're passionate about education and they want to make a difference. They want to help, they want to support, they want to influence the change. But I think the more they got into it, the more they realised that where do you actually begin? Even if you have the money and you have an audience of people that will listen, what is it that you can do? What can you impart? What can you create which is going to help education as a whole? And the more you dive into it, the harder this problem seems to be. You know, there are so many different education systems around the world. The other thing which is impossible to know is what each person needs. You know, the whole reason education is like it is because it's trying to be standardised. It's trying to be one exam against another exam. And it got me really thinking about the fact that I think when we think of it that way, it's always going to seem hard. It's always going to seem difficult. And I wouldn't know where to start either. And we've been on this journey for a while now. And the more interviews I do and the more people I talk to, the more I realise that the most impactful thing is always the relationships that we have with other people. It might be you as the student and the teacher. It might be a colleague. It might be a peer. It might be just a friend that you're talking with. But it's those relationships. It's that understanding. It's how you work together, how you play together, how you develop relationships together, which is really, really important. And so I thought, actually, maybe these conversations shouldn't be about how we teach maths or English or sciences or the arts, but about actually what we can do individually to help support these relationships. And the most important relationship is the one that we have with ourselves. And by that I mean understanding who we are, what it is that we need and what we want. Now, the reason we get stuck within this education system is the fact that the majority of people have to go to school. You have to adhere to the rules and the regulations and everything that goes on, which is where I think we get stuck. It's also the reason I think there is such a big issue with people's well-being, because we know inherently that this isn't the best way to be. It's not the best way to live. What we're being bombarded with isn't anything which is actually supporting us as we move forward. And of course, what does that mean? It means that when we realise that that's the case, we realise we think we're stuck. What can we do about it? There's nothing we can do about it because we have to go to school, or we're working in this job, or whatever the situation happens to be. Now, what if we could change that mindset? Now, I think any of us that work in education or work with children know that as soon as we think or we deem that someone is struggling, then all of a sudden we have personalised learning. We take someone aside, we have a conversation, we do what is best for them. We take out the you must do this, you must do that, you must do the other, and we work out what do you need now? How can we support you now? What's the specialist advice? What's the specialist teacher? What's the environment that you need in order for you to thrive within your current situation? Now, this just seems incredible to me that we don't just apply this to everybody. We all have a current situation. We all want to thrive. We all want to be able to get the best out of life. But why does we have to get to a point where someone is already struggling before we set that up? And I know there's the implications of school and how you mass educate people and all of that kind of thing. So therefore, maybe that's the starting point. How do we give people a personalised learning experience within that setting? And maybe that starts to take us into maybe that setting needs to change. But you all know that a lot of what I talk about is the fact that we wish that school would be an environment which was nurturing, that had the flexibility to do all the things that we talk about, but often that isn't the case. So if we take this personalised learning idea, how do we go about actually giving people the understanding of what that is? And from my point of view, that is okay. So here I am, Mark. What do I need out of this learning experience? I need this relationship, and I need someone to support me to go forward and to be able to learn what I need to learn. So I need a mentor, or I need a teacher, or I need someone in my surrounding community that can get me what I need. And it might be that just by going to school and doing what I have to do is okay for the majority of things, but I need to talk to someone about something that's on my mind, or I need help in a particular academic subject, or I need the arts, or that way of me being able to communicate with the world, which was certainly my expression when I was younger, and still to this day. I need this outlet. So maybe my school doesn't have that. Maybe the timetable doesn't work in that way now because we have maths and English that we have to do at the beginning of the school day. Well, actually, maybe I can get that out of school. Well, how do I go about that? Maybe I don't have the money or the ability to be able to just go and have lessons or to join a band. But I know somebody that can give me that personalised information and support that I need. And this community are teachers, but they're also family members, they're also parents, they're also anybody that's in my world. Now, children, when they're young, will just do what they're told to do because that's what happens. They're as they grow up, can you do this? We're going to go to this lesson, we're going to learn this particular thing, and they want to please and they want to thrive and they want to go, and they do it with so much enthusiasm. But then as we start to get into that sort of early teenage years, there isn't an interest-led idea of education. It's all about doing what you have to do. And of course, at that age, you're trying to, your peers are really important, friendship groups are really important, and you want to learn stuff and be spoken to and related to in a way which is personal. You want it to be something which is about you that you can thrive with. And the more we can harness that, I think the better. So I think rather than thinking about what school could look like or what education could look like from a subject base or the number of people in a class or the actual modules that we talk about, think about the opportunities that are around us. There are loads and loads and loads, as we will have heard on all of our recent podcasts, of online learning experiences. We can learn any manner of subject in a very personal way. You can get online class tutoring. You can get one-on-one tutoring online. You can pick the module that you need in any particular thing. Some of these things are free, some of them are paid for, but they're all available if you know what it is that you need as a person. If you want support with more arts, go out and find a teacher. If you want to be able to do dance, go and find a dance class. If you want there to be more of that sort of thing in school, ask her for it. One of the schools that I teach at, they never had drum lessons before. It was only a handful of students who went to the head of music and said, look, we'd really love to have drum lessons. We know it's not going on in school. Can we make it happen? And it happened. They got me in, I got the job, and we've had drum lessons there for the last 3 years. Wasn't even in anyone's experience within the school before that, but now it's a reality. And I think it's having that personalised understanding of what is possible. Where do I find the information I need? Where do I find the experience I need? And who do I have in my community that can help me achieve that? Whether it's pointing me in the right direction, finding that information, or being able to access the people around me that I need to in order to get the result that I think I need. Now, as the adults, as the parents, as the teachers, as the people overseeing all of this, yes, we have a very important role in terms of having this overarching idea of what is needed, especially for children when they're younger. We know that learning to read, learning to write, certain parts of education that are in place are incredibly important for people's future, but not at the detriment of their present. And that's a really important thing. How do we combine these two things together? And a lot of it is keeping that interest, keeping that enthusiasm, giving children the idea that they have control over what it is that they need at any given time. Not because it's the mass of what everybody is perceived to need at the age of 9 in this particular class, but what they need as well. And is a bit of backwards and forwards here. There's a little bit of give and take. There's a little bit of understanding of the practicalities of the world. But I think because of that original conversation I was part of with this mastermind, it's that kind of, where do we start? We don't know where to start. Let's start with the person. Let's talk to people individually. Let's talk about them taking responsibility for just having a conversation about, what is it that I want now? What can I do now for me? What can I do for somebody else? And what can we do to make the world a better place? And what does my life look like within it? Then education has a completely different starting point, a completely different focus, and a completely different understanding that isn't kind of, I get up, I go to school, I do what I'm told, and then I come home. Some people have a fantastic experience with this because the environment of school is really rewarding and whole. That isn't the case for everybody in every school, and sometimes you have these opportunities in school, but you still find that you can't thrive because of whatever pressures you deem there might be, or any external factors which are stopping you from understanding that as well. All of this is just as important as each other, whether it's academic, whether it's emotional, whether it's subject related, or whether it's friendship groups. But we need to have that personalised learning of, what do you need now within any given circumstance. So that's really what I wanted to get across, is the fact that let's start with personalised learning. Let's have a conversation about what personalised learning can be for you and for the people in our lives. And that's where we can then move forward from. How can we make that work within our surroundings, whether it's our classroom, whether it's our school, whether it's our family? And how can we then adapt all of the things within our community, within our existence, to help support that going forward? And if we can start there, at least I think we have a platform on which to grow. We can work out all of the things that we need that are in the world, that we can bring it into our existence, into our knowledge, to support us moving forward. And then we can allow life to take us in a direction that we need it to, because, we have that within us. If we let go of the fact we have to achieve this, this and this, or education needs to look like this, this and this, and we can just sit back and say, okay, I'm happy to see what comes my way, to learn from the people around me, to get the support from the people around me, and let me go with my passions, with my interests, with my led, or to be led by what is possible, then that sounds very exciting. That sounds like a different world to me, a different type of education and a different way of living. And that's the reason I wanted to create our GoFundMe campaign, so that we could bring our book together, because all of the people that are inside the book, from the interviews that I've done, they've shared their stories about what their passions were, what they've created, what they've been able to do, what mentor made such a big difference, and what advice they were given, what resource they read or heard or saw that made them go, I have control, I actually can do this in some way or another. And I think that personalised understanding of that other people have done it, and that we can bring it into our own existence, can change our world for the better, and with real focus and clarity. So thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any insights, any thoughts, any way that we can support people to do this, have the conversation with those people in your lives, in your classrooms, in your families, in your community, and let's make a difference together right away.
Thanks for listening to the Education on Fire podcast. For more information of each episode and to get in touch, go to educationonfire.com.
Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire.